What up, my freaks? RuinusInsight here with part 18 of my Total War Warhammer 3 modded Orion Immortal Empires campaign. So as we saw last time, once again and yet again a bunch of good battles that we defeated Be'lakor with Orion's army, despite the fact that we were in March/full speed stance, and Athel the Wanderer did defeat 2 full stacks and garrisons of the exiles of Nehek. Athel the Wanderer, of course, proving himself, but he was already a legend, and thus he had nothing to prove. Anyway, in terms of what we're doing this time, we did leave off... Ooh, I forgot that there was a force encounter here. I guess we'll send Akka back around to grab it if we don't have the Air Force army up and running by then. But anyway, what we're going to do this time around, we do have some ogres to fight. Now, a bit of bad news. Unfortunately, we did not reach the engagement threshold this time around, and thus we only have the short time of this episode, so we gotta get a move on. So, let's just jump right into the first fight here against Mr. Smash Gooder. Let's see how goodly he smash. Or gets smashed. We'll see. Also Slaneshi Giggle. However, to regain the streak still, 350 likes, 50 comments, etc. Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. Time to smash Gooda real good. And Durthu, I'm sure, will be up to the task. I'm also very happy about these ogre armies. Let's face it, even if we were to declare war against Grease's Goldtooth, similar to Scrag, he's never going to have an army nearly as elite as these scripted events. I mean, I'll say semi-scripted events. So the event is scripted, but obviously the armies are, I'm pretty sure, the armies are random, as it does seem to, I don't know. Probably there's some kind of math to them, certain types of units and certain numbers, etc, etc, etc. Or maybe it just does the whole budget thing and is just using the army creator. I don't know. I'm not sure. All I know is I like the armies that we're getting, and I'm damn well going to enjoy them as much as possible. Anyway, Lamentations of Despairs is not going to be particularly useful against the ogres, but that's alright. The Sword of Death will prove more than up to the task, I'm sure. Durthu activates that Vissen wild form, bringing his weapon strength up to 1.3k, and though his melee defense is relatively low, I just don't think he cares. I just don't think he cares. Now, the idea in this particular battle, I was hoping to force all of the ogres into a blob, either here or here, so I sort of blocked this area off with Treekin and kept all the dryads back. Unfortunately, it looks like the AI does not want to play this game, so we're gonna send Durthu's 3 dryads forward, help out against the Iron Guts a little bit. It looks like the enemy will react to it by sending some Saber Tusks in, but the Saber Tusks aren't going to be a threat to the Dryads either. Durthu has also been taking shots from the Ogre Pistols for pretty much the entire battle so far, and has suffered a bit of damage. He has, minus 40% fire weakness, 25% ward save, 15% physical, and 25% missile. Yeah, he certainly does have decent missile resistance between all of the resistances combining, which is probably why the Ogre Pistols haven't just knocked him out. Still, I think that if they had the same kind of buffs that they had in my Aranessa campaign, even Durthu would have dropped extremely quickly. Man, those things were nasty. But anyway, Treekin have decided to join the fray here now, since the enemy refused to allow, or to once again play our game. I guess we're going to play theirs. We'll see how those Crushers and those Ogre Bulls and Iron Guts and the Slaughtermaster can deal with Durthu and his own Wargrove. The Dryads, in the meantime, are going to decide to mob the enemy Ogre Pistols. We'll see how well they do here. We do have pretty much their entire number. There's a Penumbral Pendulum going in the background, going through the enemy Ogre Bulls. Probably not going to do a crazy amount of damage, but, well, at least the regular Ogre Bulls, unlike the Iron Guts, are fragile enough to take damage from such spells. And that's a lot of Dryads for every single one of these Ogre Man-Eaters. And they will slowly start being brought down. regardless of the lack of treemen, but fortunately the ogre man-eaters don't actually have a lot of armor on them, and thus we don't need the armor piercing of the tree kin, rather, to deal with them. It does look like the man-eaters have called for aid as dual weapon ogre bulls have joined the fray. Fairly decent rock, paper, scissoring from the AI. Whoa. I did not mean to do that. Okay, I lost my cursor for a second. My bad, if anybody got real dizzy. Well, if it helps, I also got dizzy. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. Alright, nice rock, paper, scissorsing by the AI for sending the dual weapons into the fray against the Dryads, as that's probably going to work a little bit better than the ogre man-eaters, or man-eaters with ogre pistols. Speaking of such, it looks like both of the man-eaters are out, and are going to book it on out of there. Durthu, in the meantime, together with the vast majority of his treekin and all of his branch rates as well, is still very much holding ground against the enemy elites, crushers, iron guts, whatever it may be. They're still going to have a heck of a time on getting through Durthu. And he is still taking shots from the enemy man-eaters with ogre pistols, but has activated his healing potion now, and should heal right up just fine. And once again, I've said it before in other battles, I'd much rather Durthu or another tree man to take the big hits rather than the other units, because these guys can simply heal up. I mean, it would be nice if we had a mage with regrowth in this army as well. I'll think about it. I do feel like Dwellers Below as a spell does sort of thematically work very nicely with this sort of army. And unlike Draika, who wouldn't countenance having non-glamoured elves in her army, I mean, Durthu wouldn't be so happy about it either, but might be willing to take a spell weaver in. I'll think about it. It's not needed, clearly, especially as Durthu's still doing fairly well, and that's without the treemen that will eventually be in this army. Once again, we gotta remember that Durthu doesn't buff dryads, he buffs treekin and treemen, and also his grove guardians, but those are unique to him, and alas, we don't have any. But I think at the time that we confederated Durthu, he didn't have any either. Not because he didn't lose them, but because I think they're tier 3 units and his tree was a tier 2, and it would have taken a long time for him to actually tech towards them and build them, unfortunately. And frankly, we've had a lot of great battles with Durthu throughout this campaign, gotten a lot of great shots of him doing his thing as well, which means I think it was, at the end of the day, still the right move to confederate him at the time. Because who knows how long it would have taken him to grow to tier 3. I mean, the last of the forests were still not tier 3. Draika did manage to reach tier 3, I guess. But I think the Bowman of Orion died without ever reaching tier 3, and I think none of the other trees were above tier 2 either. But anyway, looks like with the man-eaters chased off, well, actually, by the looks of it, the entire ogre army is about to be chased off, as they will shatter, having failed to breach the line of treekin. Lovely. Lovely. We're going to give chase at least a little bit with the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart applying their Frostbite. Probably one of the last times of them doing so, as they will eventually be put into Draika's army. Granted, I'm not entirely sure that she really needs the Frostbite in her army, but at the same time, I do think that Durthu doesn't really need a single unit of Dryads, especially if we go for tree men and tree kin in his army. But anyway. Alrighty, nice fight, though, once again with the problem that a lot of the ogres do still manage to escape there, and we still have to deal with that somehow, and thus the army will survive. That said, as usual, Durthu, 75k damage, 32 kills, very, very, very solid, anchoring his army and frankly doing, well, doing a lot of the damage for the army as well. Hardly surprising though. Release the captives, we'll chase him down and destroy them, and I guess we'll have to wait for the next army to arrive. We'll also probably take damage due to the auto-resolve here, but what can you do? Smash Gutter, and it's gonna be a Pyrrhic victory now? Ugh, but we're not fighting it again. Actually, you know what? Let's fight it again. Just at max speed. I'm sure it'll take no more than a minute or so. We're not even going to just use the Dryad since we don't really care about the enemy escaping this time. We can just hide the Dryads and send the Shriekin. The enemy will just break themselves upon them and upon Durthu, and we don't have to worry about taking damage. Or, as I said, chasing enemies down. Oh, and this is a snowy battlefield, too. There we go. Oh, losing my voice already. It's a little early, but it does happen. Oh well. Alrighty, try to get everybody together like so. Like so, and group one, and just march towards the enemy lord, I guess. Start battle, go. Speed it up to max, march together. Could have put the Wraiths of the Frozen Heart in there as well, but anyway. Forbidden Rod for you. And, this guy started rampaging. Alright, let him charge us, I don't care. Oh, they stopped rampaging. And back forward we go. Let's get the Lamentation of Despairs up and running, if we can hit the enemy lord with it. Will that kill it? Oh, it's not gonna kill it if it's not gonna hit him. Alright, Durthu, try to take care of that. And get the Sword of Death up and running. Just activate it to kill off the enemy lord. And there we go, down goes the enemy lord. Let's also buff up like so. Let's pop up the Shield of Thorns and just sit in place. Don't bother chasing, and just stay in a big old blob. The enemy will destroy themselves attacking you. Well, they'll also probably damage Durthu a little bit with those darn ogre pistols. Ooh, they are certainly dishing out damage. Alright, let's slow it back down. We're gonna have to give Durthu a heal or two. Gotta do what you gotta do. We do still have the healing potion available as well. Let's pop one of these, speed it back up. On the bright side, by them using all of their ogre pistol ammunition on Durthu rather than on the other Shriekin, they're kind of wasting their shots because Durthu isn't as worried about it as everybody else is. So not as big of a deal. And another Shield of Thorns, another Helm of Discord, and let's pop you. Damage Durthu a little bit more, I guess, but what can you do? Alrighty, a few more. Might as well activate his healing potion, keep those heals a-coming, and there we go. Alright. And now the army is destroyed, and this way we won't suffer attrition and can still fight, or continue to fight, next turn. I'm gonna wait until that healing potion is done. I guess we can keep healing him while it's going. Not gonna be a crazy amount of heals, but it should be fine. And there we go. Alright, lovely. Not like we can chase him down with this army anyway, really? And they're all fine, damn you, ogres. But I suppose good if you're playing the ogres. It means you can take a lot of risks, and even if your army does get heavily damaged, you can just run away. At least from a lot of enemies. Gonna keep that in mind for the next time that I play the ogres, which, well, by the looks of it, will probably be pretty soon when they get their rework at last. Release captives again. And at least Durthu is certainly racking up a lot of money this way. Yeah, we can't reach Mr. Dodd, but what we can do is go into Masterful Ambush, go into the Haunted Forest, and wait for Dodd to come to us. Oh. Well, stay here, heal to full, hit him next turn. Victory over ogres, a seasoned campaigner for Durthu, nice as well, and 1,000,000 missions successful. Double check, do we have new missions, or now we have to wait until next turn? Well, hopefully they're all to kill Dodd, because we can make use of it. Now, before I forget, Circo, you were going to build Griffin Wood. We were waiting to actually acquire money, and Durthu certainly did acquire it for us, and then we can transfer that thing back to the Sisters of Twilight. If I can find it, there we go. Refined Dreaming Bow. Surprising that they don't have any items at all. I mean, just the Forest Dragon, but they are pretty unique units, so I guess I don't really need them. Anyway, I don't believe there's anything else to build, or at least not at the current time. I'm still need to unlock you, and I don't believe there's... Well, actually, there might be some stuff to move. Loren, you do still need to move. Okay, I guess a lot of... Yeah, we need to move. Go... Well... And camp, screw it. We're not so damaged that we need to be weird about this. Just go here, and then we'll hit Granty Mingle next turn. Alright, that's Lurin. Deluric, don't move or it'll keep you in your place right now. Nath, assuming that you can't recruit or don't want to, will keep you as you are. Iskura, you have defeated Marcus Wolfheart and are going to try to get back to the Sacred Pools, so go this way. Ellen Delling, you are going to see if you can't chase down Epidemius, or whether he'll fight or not, we shall see. Go for it. And fight he will by the looks of it. Ooh, and this is going to be pretty interesting. First of the battles for this army in its current form. Though, I wonder how this is going to go. It's going to be difficult dealing damage with these guys to all of those plague bearers. It's not like we have high damage dealing on the Glade Riders. We'll see how much their ammunition allows them to do. Anyway, War Banner on Elendilling. Standard of Discipline on, I don't know, maybe the Hawk Riders. Actually, you know what? No. Our only melee unit, the Waystalker. Let's give this a try. Should be fun. Yeah. Alrighty, hunt them indeed. Let's see how this goes. Will the enemy be able to do anything? Honestly, it's just going to be a question of whether the poor units of Plague Bearers will be able to survive long enough for us to run out of ammunition. Once we're forced into melee in this army, it's obviously going to be a lot more difficult. But will we be forced into melee? That is what will decide the day. Anyway, for now, we're trying to essentially spread our fire among various units so that the poison and the toxic venom is applied to multiple units at the same time. And so that there isn't too much overlap. Of course, our aerial units are going to go after the enemy Rotflies, and by the looks of it, the Rotflies are having a fairly bad day already. Fairly decent work by the Hawk Riders by the looks of it. Now, this unit is already melting, and the unit on the flanks is not so much, but it is also not being focused down nearly as much either. Alright, sorry to the Rotflies, but oh well. What can you do? Oh, it does look like one of the Rotflies, the one that we ignored, does manage to sort of reach our line, and, well, we're probably still going to be able to get away from it. Their speed is at 45, and it's still going to be much slower than the Sisters of the Thorn or the Glade Riders. Speaking of such, it looks like we are backing away from the enemy, essentially splitting our army in two on the two halves, or into two halves on... Let's see if we can do the same to the enemy army and force them to follow. Not that it matters over much. Did take a little bit of damage to one of our Hawk Riders units as they took a couple volleys from the enemy Exalted Plague Bearers, who do have anti-air or range attacks, but not a single Hawk Rider dropped out of the sky, so I suppose it didn't matter over much. Plague Toads moving in. And skirmish mode being completely wonky does allow them to get at least a couple licks in, but alas, not enough to bring any of our units down. Plague Toad's about to get brought down as well. And melt away. Damn. Down to 9 melee attack. The Curse of Anrahir is screwing them over in combination with all of that poison. Still, the enemy has not really reached any of our units and is being decimated. Our ammunition is still in reasonably decent shape at over half as well. Focusing down the enemy Cultist of... No, that's a Plague-Ridden, rather. Focusing down the enemy Plague-Ridden. And ignoring Epidemius for now. He's taking a little bit of damage due to various stray shots, but he is going to be self-healing, and he's going to be a lot more resistant to fire with that 70% combined resistance to range, and we're just going to ignore him in favor of killing off his army, at least for now. I suppose we could have the Hawk Riders target him specifically. We saw what the Hawk Riders did to poor Nakari, who got just obliterated without us even really paying attention to him. Alright, by the looks of it, the Plague Ridden is down to about 30% of its HP. It's wavering now and will soon begin melting away. Nurglings and Plague Bearers continue to try to get to the flanks and reach our units, but are continuing to fail at doing so, obviously being far too slow and even slower due to the poison constantly being applied by the Glade Riders. Exalted Plague Bearers, well, at least they managed to get their range shots off before they perished without getting a single Plague Blade hit into any of our units. Alright, well done, Glade Riders and Sisters of the Thorn. As expected, combining rather nicely. And I don't know what you guys were aiming at. It's not like the Plague Bearers are very fast targets after all. Anyway, balance of power at about 90% in our favor now, but the ammunition is at about 15, maybe 10% as well. The enemy Plague Ridden is destroyed, and by the looks of it, the Beasts of Nurgle are about to follow suit with the Hawk Riders, focusing them down from up above. I suppose Epidemius is next on the menu, so we're going to switch to armor-piercing shots specifically for him and see how much damage the Hawk Riders can do before they completely run out of ammunition. There are still a few units of Plague Bearers running around. We may be forced into melee, especially if Epidemius continues to use his abilities, opening a gate of Nurgle and summoning another unit of Exalted Plague Bearers. This does mean we're going to have to back off with our Hawk Riders, as once again, those guys do have range attacks, and we don't want our Hawk Riders getting hit by them. Epidemius giving chase, still far too slow at 25 movement speed, however, though 5 to 10% ammunition on all units. The left flank units have completely run out of ammunition on about half of their number. And a couple more volleys will see them completely out as well. And probably be forced into the occasional melee attack. But you gotta do what you gotta do. We still do have the ability to rely upon our Hawk Riders in melee should we need to, as you gotta remember that the Hawk Rider is very solid in melee as well. Glade Riders and Sisters of the Thorn do charge on in, as they're out of ammunition, though a couple of units still had a couple more volleys left. I thought I timed that a little bit better, but alas, not a big deal. Or at least I hope it isn't. The Plague Bearers were already melting away anyway, and speaking of melting away, by the looks of it, Epidemius is done. He's down to about 40% of his HP, as the units on this flank still had at least a few arrows and javelins remaining, and enough to damage him and force him into melting. Alright, looks like he gets one last spell off, perhaps one last ability off rather, who gets hit with a Arrow of Kurnus and gets brought down. And that's why he is in such a sour mood. Anyway, the last unit remaining is the summoned unit of Exalted Plague Bearers. Technically speaking, since they're summoned and will melt away in 70 seconds, we don't even have to do anything. We do, however, have like 5% ammunition on a couple of our units. So we'll get a few more arrows into these guys. We just need to do enough damage for their banishment or instability to turn into banishment, as they'll melt away twice or 3 times as fast, or whatever the change is. There we go. They're into banish now. They're completely shattered, and we don't have to do anything further, which is great because these are the last arrows on our last unit with ammunition. Ammunition-wise, this battle worked out very, very well. For us, I mean, not so much for poor Epidemius. Alright, I genuinely do feel bad for that one. Definitely the worst kind of army that Epidemius could have gone up against with his Plague Bearer spam. They're just too slow. Well, I mean, even if we were archer units, they would have been too slow, but yeah, that was horrifying. We got 2 losses, and I'm 99%. One from them, one of the Rotflies got a kill, and then the other one was from friendly fire. Poor Epidemius, but hey. Ow! I didn't realize Epidemius had a research rate trait. I thought it was only immunity to contact effects. Well, we certainly won't say no to more research.
How
Great, because we damn well do need it. Ellendelling, go back or land again. And then next turn we will... whoa. Sudden declaration of war on the Empire. Next turn we'll hit the longship, great, or jump over to Norska again and continue annoying them over there. Clearing the land around here, though we do want to return to Loren Forest reasonably soon, as it's starting to get close to its ritual. Anyway, Deluric, I guess you're stuck where you are, so just sit here. Nath doesn't need to move, and was this the only army that needed to move, incidentally? I'll have to double check here. Oh. Akka still needs to move, or again needs to move. You can't reach Hrothgar's Spire, so I think what we'll do is we'll get you as close to Cleric Spire as possible. I guess it doesn't have to be that close, but close enough. Stay in our own territory, go here. We'll pop the Sisters of Twilight into Chimerica Spire, wherein we will defend if the orcs come a-callin'. Next, after Akka, we have Aezrit, who is just going to stick around here near Hag Hall in case the Dark Elves attack. Recruiter Shaw Muscle. I would like you to go to Quinnell, because you need to transfer the Eternal Guard to Dothaen to replace the frickin' War Drum, as well as use the higher veterancy units. Also, it feels like our units aren't leveling as much as you'd think they would be, considering that every single one of our military buildings provides bonus XP for all units, faction-wide. We have a fair few of those military buildings. Pretty sure we should have a plus 100%, and still not leveling all that quickly. It does depend on the unit, though, like the Hawk Riders and such. The ones that get all the kills, I guess, they get all the levels as well, which, you know, fair enough. If you're standing around, you're not getting much XP. Trelon, you're fine. Akka, you're fine. Strasleth, you are awaiting Draika. We still need to get her... Okay, well, she'll be up next turn, so we'll figure it out then. Alrighty, and the rest of that, I believe, is good. So assuming that there's no buildings to build, which I'm pretty sure I already checked, I guess we can end the turn and look to fight the other ogre army. We don't have a lot of time, so maybe we could just fight the one battle, so let's end the turn and get to it. Alright, Yuan Bo, you're just stopped being distracting. Peace treaty, no thank you, at least not at the current time. Let's see if we can't get that alliance back up with those last defenders. Gotta try to get some lizardmen units, although it's taking so long to get alliances and allegiance, it may not be super possible. We shall see. Or at the very least, we're probably going to have to limit our alliances in terms of the number of armies. Alright, and we... Hello! Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Throat the Unclean and... Vanaheimlings. Huh. You're nuts. You're going to get obliterated. I guess it's because we're in full speed stance again, so the Vanaheimlings and I guess Throat think that they have something resembling a chance, but do they? Do they really? Good luck to you, sir. Alright, did someone say slaughter them? Because I think the Wild Riders are very much into that. Let's see them charge. We Vanguard deployed our entire line of Wild Riders since the Norskins have brought a ton of their range cav to play. We're gonna meet them with some proper cav. And of course the enemy has no chance of escaping the Wild Riders because they are much, much faster than those poor Norskins. And there we go. The melee aspect of this enemy army is completely overrun by Wild Riders. And I'm sure our Wood Elven host is enjoying all the trees around in this island as well. Alright, and on the left flank it looks like most of the Norscan cavalry has completely shattered or been killed nearly to a man. There's a few kills for Orion as well, as he decided to lead his Wild Riders in the charge. He doesn't run quite as fast as them, but fast enough to keep up, I suppose. Alrighty, and Orion will head towards the enemy lord and whatever remains of the enemy cavalry here. Enemy lord is out. The enemy lord is basically dead as well, and I think he died pretty much instantly with, oh, there he goes. Or at least he lost his HP as soon as Orion charged on in, and will try to escape out of there. Although I do wonder if he can do so. It looks like he's running fairly quickly. No, but it looks like the Wild Riders will chase him down as well. It is what they like to do. Wild Hunters and all that. Anyway, on the right flank, the Sisters of the Thorn and await reinforcements, and the Sisters of the Thorn and the Hawk Riders were doing the same thing. There weren't a lot of enemy units back there, but we wanted to keep away our range so that they didn't threaten our units of Wild Riders. And with the Norscan army destroyed, it looks like it's time for the rats to make their way onto the field. Now, the first thing we want to do is knock out the darn Warlock Engineer. Certainly don't want it casting. And, ooh, looks like Orion actually manages to land his big old spear for once. And it looks like a rat. Oh, what a great name. And looks like our rat's down to about half HP, which is fine. Orion now running around just waiting for the rats to get into position, as we'll want to cast the big old Hounds of Kurnus right in the middle of this blob of units. We are also waiting for the enemy Plague Claw catapults to make their way forward, as we are going to be sending a couple units towards them to make sure that they can't fire. In particular, it's going to be the Glade Captain, at least until we can get more units over here. Alright, it looks like a enemy assassin decides to charge forth together with Throt the Unclaimed. We're going to ignore him and instead target Throt with all of our range. Orion and our Hawk Riders and all of our Sisters of the Thorn all targeting him at the same time. I do imagine Throt won't do well here, and in fact with Prey of Anathrema on him he can't run. He's going to drop down to about 40% of his HP, and in desperation summon a unit of rat ogres. It's so weird seeing Throt not on a Brood Horror though, and it's really not going to go so well for him without said Brood Horror either. Ooh, and three arrows of Kurnus right to the back, and our Waystalker will actually take the kill. Good for the Waystalker. Anyway, looks like the enemy rat ogres that were desperately summoned by Throt have been overrun and obliterated by our Wild Riders, and it's time for the Wild Riders to join the fray and charge through the enemy army. No rat is going to be able to stop the barreling charge of these bucks. The Hawk Riders will fly above and will drop down upon the enemy in melee as well, and the Sisters of the Thorn are going to join the Wild Riders as well. The rats go flying and they know that they are doomed, and pretty much the entire rat host will shatter very, very quickly. But hardly surprisingly, once again we have all those anti-leadership traits available due to those forest spirits on all of our heroes, and against certain factions and certain units, like the rats with low leadership, it does mean that they will rout and shatter much quicker than they otherwise might. There we go. Cav completely destroying the enemy. We'll chase down what we can, and we'll see what remains of these two armies right after. And don't know whether we took any damage, but if we did, I'm sure it was very, very slight. Well done, Orion, and well done to our riders. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And man, seeing that entire cavalry stack bearing down upon you must be, well, pretty darn horrifying. Throt is done, and so is most of the Svanaheimling army. Of course, they will survive because we didn't attack them, but, well, it's not a good life. And free money? Ally occupies settlement, Carcassonne. Good for Ally, I guess. Hey, there we go. 15% extra hit points for Orion. I would have actually loved that on... I would have loved that on Durthu and... well, everybody other than Orion, because they probably have more HP than he does, don't they? How much HP does he even have? 9k. It's actually not so bad. Oh, 10k when with the buff. Oh, actually, you know what? That's actually pretty solid. And... he's able to get 30%... no, 15% more HP. but still solid nonetheless. Anyway, a Ratcatcher Skipper Creator, Coadil is back. Maddened Ancient and Jorika is up and running as well as another Ancient Tree Man. We've also got that technology research completed, which means more casualty replenishment rate, which we can certainly use in a lot of places. Autumn is here now, which is what in terms of buffs? Speed for cave bats, movement range for armies, melee attack because it's beasts. The beasts like Autumn. Well, good for them. Huh! And Drika is back at the same time. That's kind of appropriate, isn't it? It's really lined up, I guess. But anyway. Unfortunately, we didn't reset Drika because obviously she was... Let me think about this. We'll get her back up here. Do we want to reset her right now? Well, actually, let's take a look. Let's take a look whether we need to. What do we have here? She maxed out Penumbral Pendulum and got Ancient Bark, which would buff her... would buff the Malevolent Treeman. We need rank 12 to reach her unique tree line. Alright, you know what? That's fine. I'd rather not waste the time, so we'll keep her up and running like this. She will need many a Branch Wraith. That's one. What do you have? Verdant Agility. Kind of mad, but nonetheless. Easier than just gathering branch wraiths from everywhere. And, well, we're gonna need 2 more. I think we can take 1 from Durthu, maybe, because at least that's one with high level, and then we'll need to build another one, but we will need capacity for it, as we're at... Ooh! Upkeep production for Lords and Heroes. That ain't bad. Anyway, we'll figure this out between the episodes, and I'll figure out how Drika's army is going to look like. There's going to be a lot of unit swapping, but fortunately that'll happen as soon as the Wild Hunt is back up, which is in a turn, so her army should be full and ready to go rather shortly. Anyway, stay tuned for more Wood Elves. We complete the ritual next time as we kill off Dodd, and then hopefully pop the next ritual, which is going to be Lorelorn Forest by the looks of it. Depending on whether we have to attack a lot of places, but I think a lot of our places or a lot of our outposts and trees are getting relatively clear, so we should be able to avoid too many uninteresting battles. Though in this late game we've gotten plenty of very interesting battles lately, so I've been very happy so far, and hopefully will continue to be so. Same with you guys. All glory to the algorithm, likes and comments for the threshold, and thanks for watching.